On today's episode, let's go to the phones. Open phone calls from World's Toughest Podcast listeners. Here's my number. Call me. Maybe.
This is the World's Toughest Podcast. Welcome to the World's Toughest Podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's World's Toughest Mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the World's Toughest Podcast.
Welcome back to Kickoff Week. This is episode 4 of Kickoff Week of World's Toughest Podcast. We have an episode every day this week, kicking off the new season of World's Toughest Podcast and looking forward to the start of the Tough Mudder season on March 3rd at Toughest Mudder or Tough Mudder Los Angeles. Who is going to be at Tough Mudder LA or Toughest Mudder LA? Before we start, my name is Will Hicks. You can reach me at willhicks@gmail.com or on Twitter at @TheWillHicks. I'm on Instagram at WillHicks. You can subscribe to our World's Toughest email newsletter by texting the word tough to the number 22828 or by sending an email to worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com. Directions are in the show notes. You can be a part of the show by leaving a review on iTunes through the Purple Podcast app on your phone. We have some great reviews on iTunes. People say very kind things. If you have left a review in the past, thank you very much. Last week, we took phone calls from listeners, people just like you, who listened to the show and said, hey, I'm going to give a little back. I appreciate those phone calls. This is the second time we've had an episode like this. You can find the first one toward the end of season 1. It aired in November last year, called Let's Go to the Phones. If you want to be notified when we're having a listener call an episode, you need to subscribe to our newsletter. Text the word tough to the number 22828 or send me an email, worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com with your name, phone number, and email address. We will get you on next time. As I'm recording this, it is Friday, January 26th, so happy Australia Day, Australia. It's the official National Day of Australia. I want to say it's the equivalent of the 4th of July in the U.S., but every time I say something about Australia, I get it wrong. So recently I was talking about Toughest Mudder Australia, and I referred to the city near the venue as Brisbane. I had 2 people correct me that it's actually pronounced Brisbane. So I apologized last episode and got it right. Brisbane. And then today I heard back from my Australian listener consultants that it might be pronounced Brisbane. So, I don't know. I'm just going to mumble it from now on. Toughest Mudder Australia will be held on May 19th in Brisbane. Thanks to my Australian experts, Dennis Alsamas and Carolyn Clifford and Haley Goodstein. Of my panel of Australian experts, one of them is Australian, one is American but used to live in Australia, and one has a soft spot for all things Australian. I mentioned Toughest Mudder LA. Not only is it the first Tough Mudder of the year and the first Toughest Mudder of the year, it is also the launch of another brand new race series by Tough Mudder. Here's a preview.
Since the dawn of time, Tough Mudder has brought you the most epic events on the planet. Mini Mudder, Tough Mudder Half, Tough Mudder, Tougher Mudder, Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder. Now, just when you thought we'd come up with every possible idea in the universe, we're unleashing the roughest event on the planet. Are you ready?
Does that sound familiar to you? Because, yeah, It's real now.
Just when you thought we'd finally reached the pinnacle of tough, just when you thought the bar couldn't be raised any higher, we're unleashing the cutest event on the planet. Prepare yourself for Puppy Mutter. It doesn't get any tougher than this. 6 incredible obstacles, one adorably epic experience. Watch in awe as this elite crew of rough runners take on the toughest obstacle course known to canine kind. And they'll look cute as doing it. They'll run, they'll jump, they'll sniff and claw their way to the finish, using teamwork and camaraderie, leaving no puppy behind.
This started as an April Fool's joke last year, but they are actually rolling it out for real at Tough Mudder LA this year. True story. A short obstacle course for you and your dog to run together. For details, you can go to toughmudder.com. In that video, Tough Mudder has signs for some of the obstacles you and your pup may face, like Puppy Pyramid, Barctic Enema, and Electroshock Therapuppy. After doing some research, I have discovered a secret list of Puppy Mutter obstacles. These have never been seen by the public. They are Corgi Infinity, Ape Shih Tzu, and Husky Monkey, the Revolution. I can do this all day. Bull Mastiff Walls, Mutt Mile 2.0, Alpo-ration. Andrew Dahlquist wrote something real nice on the World's Toughest Mudder community board on Facebook, and I wanted to share it with you. 1 year ago today, I was over the moon. I ran for 2 miles. 2 miles without stopping. Yes, I had an athletic background, but certainly not a running background. No, I wasn't a runner. Running was one of those things reserved for people who had always been good at running, for people who were born to run. But that day, 1 year ago, that was a different day. That day, I decided that it made no difference whether I was a good runner or a bad runner. That day, I decided that I was a runner all the same. So I put on a pair of kicks, and I ran. And who'd have guessed that the kid who ran 2 miles without stopping 1 year ago would be signed up for not just 10 obstacle course races, but for World's Toughest Mudder? And who'd have guessed that the kid who ran 2 miles without stopping 1 year ago would one day realize, that day, I was good at running. That day, I was born to run. Big shout out to Michael Robinson for introducing me to OCR, to Will Hicks, World's Toughest Podcast, for giving me the 5 stars confidence to stop staring at the submit order button on the TM website and hit send, and to Ken Jacobus for inviting me to join this community. Happy to connect with any and all of you. See you in the mud. I talked with him after I saw that letter he wrote, or that post, and he said one thing that our podcast did for him was it humanized the race. It made it seem like something that would be fun and rewarding and doable, and not just some crazy long race for endurance robots. Thanks for the kind words, Andrew. Good luck as your first World's Toughest this year in Atlanta. Cold Atlanta. I also got a nice email from Jason Wortman. Jason is the guy, J-Dub, whose 5-year-old son listens to the show with his dad. Hey, Knox. Thanks for listening. And John Hobson told me his daughters listen to the podcast. Hey, Grace. Hey, Emma. Grace thinks I sound like Ryan Atkins, which isn't close to true, but I'll take it. Thanks anyway, Grace. One more piece of news before we read some iTunes reviews. Mike Jones posted about some new volunteer info that came through from Team HQ. If you've run World's Toughest, you'll remember Mike by his large sombrero he wears on course when he volunteers. He's out there all 24 hours. Team HQ did an interview with him where they dubbed him the World's Toughest Volunteer. Here's that volunteer news. I'm just going to read what he posted. Full-day volunteers will now run a Tough Mudder Half, or Tough Mudder 5K for free. That's right, you'll run for free. Not a free ticket with insurance fees, but running for $0, pounds, euros. Volunteer for a half-day shift at a Tough Mudder event and run for 80% off. For those who volunteer after they run, we will still be offering reimbursements. Volunteer for that full day Sunday, and your Saturday run will be free. Stay tuned over the next few weeks, and we'll be showing you the 2018 swag. Did someone say patches? So evidently, there are going to be volunteer patches this year. Thanks for that, Mike Jones. You can get more information about volunteering at toughmudder.com or track down Mike Jones on Facebook. He's pretty much the expert on it. After this was announced, Ian K. from the UK asked me if we in the US have a segment of the OCR community who won't run Tough Mudder because volunteers have to pay. Up to this point, volunteers got a huge discount, but it wasn't free. And evidently in the UK, this is a pretty big deal. The expectation there is if you volunteer, you get to run for free. Also in the UK, people like to camp out at the race site the night before the race. I like camping. I do. But not before I'm going to run for 10 or 20 miles. Thanks to Ian K., Mike Jones, John Hobson, Jason Wortman, and Andrew Dahlquist for the content. I really don't like calling the show content. Lots of content today. Week's worth of content. I catch myself saying it sometimes, but it sounds so antiseptic, so corporate-esque. Everyone says it. I say it, but I don't like it. Let's read some iTunes reviews. First review is from Molly Kenneth. Molly. You might remember Molly from last year's episode, How to Not Die at World's Toughest Mudder. Molly writes, best commute ever. 5 stars. Dear Will, you were the very first person I met at my first ever Tough Mudder, Lake Elsinore, 2016. You were in your world's bib, and I had no idea then that your ability to make me feel welcome and included on that course would be your gifts and talent played out to so many times in this community. A place to share information, get background stories, and get answers to the questions we didn't even know we had. World's Toughest Podcast contributed to my thorough enjoyment of my first WTM this year. But when in episode 58, you took on giving Ryan Woods a place to set the record straight and stand up for his integrity, you took your tell me everything voice and immense ability for digging into things to a whole new level, emotional maturity. While we talk about the physical flogging and mental smackdown of WTM, it is fewer people that truly roll with you when things get emotionally tough. Get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, maybe something said, but when you gave those two the forum to hash out their stories, it was uncomfortable to listen to, in only the best way, and made for the best commute ever. You never skipped a beat, holding your radio voice and the space for the truth steady and open. What you do matters. You have gifts that you share with us, and we are all grateful. Sincerely, Molly Kenneth. Thank you, Molly. Those are very kind words. I appreciate that. Molly has been a force for good in the World's Toughest community this past year with advice and thoughtful commentary in the various groups online. Mike Stefano is doing an interview with her this summer on overhydration. If you have a World's Toughest Mudder medical-related question, you should track Molly down. Molly Kenneth, she's on Facebook. If she doesn't know the answer to your question, she will point you the right way. Speaking of Mike, he has changed the name of his podcast. It's now the Obstacle Running Adventures podcast. Feel free to check that out when you're done here. Next review comes from Neil. Neil writes, 5 stars. Awesome podcast, Will. Great information and has motivated me to take my Tough Mudder experience to the next level. Good to hear, Neil. What do you mean, take it to the next level? What does that mean? Once you're comfortable multi-lapping on a Saturday or even doing Saturday and Sunday back-to-back, I think you can step up to the 8-hour toughest mudder without much of a problem. It's always going to be a big jump from 8 hours to 24 hours, taking it to that level, but it's worth it. Good luck, Neil. Last review comes from Daddy2B. Love this podcast. 5 stars. This podcast was my intro to podcasts. Would have been even better if I would have discovered it before WTM, but it's been great to hear about everyone's experience in Las Vegas. Keep up the great work. 5 stars in Rhea's voice. 5 stars in Rhea's voice. Oh, we're making requests now?
5 stars.
All right. That's cool.
5 stars.
Right now, other than me,
5 stars.
which is your default, there's not a ton to pick from. You've got Rhea.
5 stars.
You've got Matt B. Davis.
5 stars.
I've got Rochelle Swanson from Team Fat Boys.
5 stars. We're good.
And that's pretty much it. Any other elites are welcome to send me their 5 stars and get on the soundboard. Allison Ty, Michelle Ford, Christopher Mendoza. You know what? Anyone can. Send me a clip of your best 5 stars to World's Toughest Podcast at gmail.com. We'll do something with them. You guys. Thanks for the review, Daddy 2B.
5 stars.
If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Molly Kenneth or Neil, or make a 5-star request like Daddy2B, you can leave a review on iTunes also. Open the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone and search for Tough Mudder. Our logo is the first one that pops up. Click on our logo and then scroll down to click on Write a Review. If you don't have an iPhone, you can do it through your computer. I would appreciate it. It's time to talk to the listeners. Let's go to the phones.
Hello, this is Will.
Hey, Will, it's Melissa.
Hey, Sharkbait, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. What are you up to?
Driving in the mountains of Virginia. Very fun.
The very first episode you and I talked, you were still living in Florida, and since then you've moved to Virginia for work, right?
Yes. Well, I grew up in Virginia. That's where my family is, and I lived in Florida for 3 years, and then I moved back, which has been really, really nice, honestly.
Nice. How was your World's Toughest Mudder?
Oh, God, that was a awful and wonderful experience all at the same time. That course is hard.
How'd you do?
Good. I got 50 miles for the 3rd year in a row. Swear to God, I'm going to break it one year. But it was the first time I almost quit.
What happened?
Almost. I didn't. I didn't find out till after the fact what I did, but I thought, like a lot of people, I know Pinky had a lot of issues with her lungs. I had to borrow people's inhalers because I have asthma, but I haven't had an attack in a long time. And I used to always carry it on me on my races on course, but I just haven't needed it, so I didn't even bring one with me. And I just couldn't breathe. I was literally coughing up the sand. Oh, so bad. And after the first cliff jump, after midnight, it got really bad, and I thought it was my lungs. And there was this really steep hill on the way to Ladder of Hell as part of the night ops course. And when I remember I got to the top of it, and I was with Darren Harris, and I actually thought I was going to get medically DQ'd because I thought my lung had collapsed. Like, dead serious. I'm like, I can't breathe. I literally felt like I couldn't breathe anymore. And he helped push me to finish. But I went to my therapist after the fact, and it must have been when I jumped. The muscles going from my left pec down to my bicep kind of twisted over and inward a little bit, which pulled on my chest cavity. And, he had to bruise me and move it all back. And I was beat up and stuff, but then I felt a lot better. But, yeah, that was a rough course.
I have never heard of that happening. That's amazing.
It was weird. It was unreal. It's amazing how certain things can make you feel a certain way and have nothing to do with relation of what's actually wrong. But, That would be scary because there's certain levels of there's pain from a workout, and then there's pain from a race where you're like, I don't want to do permanent damage, but I'm going to push through this. And then there's I can't breathe, I might die. That's kind of scary. Yeah, all I could think about was what the what was his name? Darren on Deanna's team back in 2014, 2015, the team that they did. And she had to like he collapsed his lung jumping off the cliff. So that's all that was in my head was my lung must have collapsed. Like, it was just unreal. And funny enough, Deanna is one of the people that saved me because I saw her on course and I'm like, do you have a inhaler? And she didn't have it on her, but back in the pits, I was able to get her inhaler because she knew I had asthma from being my coach a couple of years ago. And that helped, but it didn't because it wasn't my lungs. It was from external. It was muscular. Oh, it was just crazy. And
How many miles did you do with that bad lung?
Well, that was probably around 2 a.m. I hit 25 miles at 11. So, probably 20 miles. Mm-hmm. But, at that point, you just suck it up and go. You just finish.
Are you sad that was the last year in Vegas, or are you excited for a new
no. Oh, no. I never, ever want to see that cliff again. Never. I don't, Not even for nostalgia. If everyone's like, oh, let's meet up in Vegas. And no, I don't ever want to do it again. I said it last year. I don't want to jump off that cliff again. The last 2 years I've hurt myself. So no, I'm done. I don't care what Atlanta brings. I don't know. I might even be okay with more electrical stuff after that. Like, I just don't even want to think about that again. And the sand, after coughing all that stuff up, I mean, I was finding sand in my ears for like weeks. It was ridiculous. I don't know why it was so much worse this year. I had more issues with the sand, like in my lungs and stuff this year than I did the sandstorm. So I don't know what happened differently. Someone said they felt they had us through looser sand. I don't know. It was just horrible. But I love the Atlanta course. Of all the toughest courses from last year, I rated that my number one. It was fun as hell. I love single track trails through the woods. Everyone's going to really like that. The only concern is going to be is it's pretty technical. And as we get tired, and I know myself, I already kind of drag my feet. And if I get tired, there's more, possibility of falling and hurting something. So that's scary.
They could run us wherever they wanted to on that course, but the way they had it last year, almost like half of it was like single trail, and then maybe not half, but a big chunk of it was like through fields, like not cornfields, but just like flat grass.
Oh, I was waiting for Children of the Corn to come out. That was, because the fog and everything from the high grass, that was pretty cool. Yeah, but it was also, again, tricky on the feet because it was fields and there were a lot of divots. So people have really got to be careful of their ankles. And something else we all have to think about is different shoes because it's a lot different terrain, in Atlanta than in Vegas. And I've been wearing Ultras Lone Peaks for the past few years at Worlds. And so I'm actually kind of nervous of, what am I going to wear now? Because I don't know if they're going to be aggressive enough for 24 hours of Atlanta.
You think you'll need more aggressive traction, like deeper tread, or?
Yeah, I mean it's muddier. It all depends. It's the East Coast, so it could be really muddy. What if it rains for a few days? I think we're going to have a lot more options this year. Lucky for me, I'm going to drive. It's only like 8 hours from Virginia, so I don't have to worry about flying. So I can kind of bring whatever in my vehicle. So that makes it easy. But I think we're going to need a lot of options.
I've driven to Vegas the last 3 years from San Diego, and it's the best. Like I was like, I don't know how people fly in. I really don't, because I'll fill up my Navigator with stuff. Like I have. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it makes it a lot easier when you can drive and bring whatever you want to bring. But also, wetsuits. It was colder, right? It was colder this year in Atlanta, the weekend of Worlds.
People were checking the weather. Yeah, while we were in Vegas, after they announced Atlanta, everyone was checking the weather in Atlanta, and it was like 10 or 15 degrees colder. So yeah, that's the drum I'm going to beat all year. It's going to be cold. It's Atlanta. It's hot Atlanta, but it is going to be cold in November.
I know. I don't know why they called it hot Atlanta, but
I don't know. Whatever. I think Matt Davis likes it. I'm not sure. Hey, so what's your plan?
Do you guys have some bet?
We were talking about having a OCR podcast division, but with him, me, and Heather Bodie. But I think Heather's going to beat both of us. So
yeah, she's badass.
So what's your plan for 2018? Last year you did all 6 of the toughest mutters. What are you looking at this year?
Kind of playing it by ear. I don't never really know my schedule more than 4 to 6 weeks in advance, but probably will do all the ones in the U.S. I'm not going abroad this year. So, I said it last time. I don't want to go. I love Europe. No offense, but I went there 2 years in a row for my quote vacation. I want to go somewhere tropical. So, but I'm for sure doing LA. I'm just waiting on the codes to be released so I can sign up because I bought the toughest package with Worlds and the toughest. And for sure doing LA. I don't even remember when all the other ones are, but I'm sure I'll do, if not all of them, the majority of them.
I think doing all 4 in the U.S. is a good. That's a good, and they could do like a U.S. circuit and a international circuit if they wanted to, like have a U.S. champion and then a European champion / Australia.
Yeah, that's true, because very few of us went over to do, but more people are going over to do the one in UK this year, because I had a lot of people, say that they were going to go and ask if I was going. So I was like, well, now you guys decide to go after I go 2 years in a row. But are they all the ones in the U.S.? Not to put you on the spot for dates, but are they spread out a little bit more than last year? Because I'm not doing that again. If any of them are within like a month of each other, I'm not doing it, because I wrecked my body last year doing them like that.
They're better spread out. The ones that are close together are the European ones. There's I think it's 3 weeks in a row. Like Jim Campbell's going over there, where he's going to be doing one like week after week, like 3 weekends in a row. It might be 3 races in 4 weeks. But they're a lot. If you want to do the European ones, all the European ones, they're really tight together.
Well, Jim's bionic, so he's good there. I'm not. So, all right. Well, I don't have to worry about that because I'm not doing that.
Well, cool.
But you'll be at LA, right?
I'll definitely be at LA. And I'm planning on being at the other US one. And I have tickets for all 8. So we'll see what happens. There's obviously logistics.
Are you ready?
You know what? I hurt my ACL right before Worlds last year, so I did not run last year. And I've been seeing a PT. I've been back on the incline trainer, and I think I'll be able to like do 10 or 15 miles. I don't think I'll be able to push for 30 in LA, but hopefully by the end of the year I'll be back at 100%.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's go out for 10. I mean, it's still training, and you should go easy. Yeah, I'm nervous about the whole 30 because last year I got 25 3 times, and the one time I got close to getting 30, it really would have been a push. So I joined Yancey Camp 3 weeks ago, and I've been training with Yancey, and Morgan Mackay is my athlete that I deal with directly. And but boy, that's it's fun and it's tough. And I never thought anybody could make the treadmill fun, right? But Yancey actually can. So I look forward to getting on the treadmill, which before it was the treadmill, It is really good training. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited, and I have a feeling that's going to be what's going to help me get to that 30 miles at a toughest and to finally hit over 50 at World.
Get that dirty brown bib.
Yes, God, at least once.
If you ever got a dirty brown bib, would you wash it?
I never thought of that. No, you know what? Now that you ask, I wouldn't. I would probably, that would be the bib that I would wear and get dirty and then frame it. Probably, because I've got the other one. If I want to wear the other ones out on course, because I love to wear them out on course for promotion for World, and I've got the other ones I can wear. But no, that's a good point. I probably would not, because I don't. It's going to be a push for me to get there. I'm pretty slow, so it'll be a push for me to get anything over 50.
Melissa, do you have any advice for first-time WTMer, first time coming to Atlanta, run World's Toughest?
If possible, get to one of the toughest events. There's no better training than doing a toughest to get you used to possibly the cold, depending where you are, which one you're doing to, running at night, running endurance, running a circuit that's very similar to what Worlds is going to be. Highly, highly suggest that. Doing 24-hour trainings on your own when we get later in the summer and the fall. Join with your fellow Worlds, participants. A lot of us do trainings all throughout the country throughout the year. So reach out to your fellow friends, get in the community. That's where a lot of it's organized on Facebook. and just lean on your fellow WTMers to get the training right and the gear and nutrition. Nutrition's important. Read all the files and just educate yourself as much as you can, because you go in not knowing what to do and things will fall apart really quick.
Those files you're talking about are in the World's Toughest Mudder community group on Facebook. They have files going back years that people have just put together, like records of literally almost any question you would have, you could find in one of those files.
Yeah. Yeah, what suit do I wear? Shoes, nutrition. What do I buy? We have, people's gear lists that, are, if you're, very budget conscious and you don't want to spend a lot of money. We have, multiple people's gear. We have previous years obstacle lists or the maps. Granted, this is a new venue, but so you have an idea of how things could be set up and things like that. It's just the more you read, the more that you ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you feel, that it's been asked a million times. You can reach out to me or another administrator or any veteran will help you, because we all had the same questions at one time, for sure.
My first year, I was like so stressed out. I was like, what shoes should I wear? What shoes should I wear? And really, like, dude, you'll be fine. But it's just yeah.
Well, but that's the thing, is we need to remember that as veterans, because and I've had this, some people get really frustrated when a new person asks a question and they're like, and I said, well, you know what? I asked the same question, but that's what we're there for. And I still have screenshots from advice of wetsuits from Lucas, Rivera. I literally still have the screenshots from 2014. And you've got to remember where you came from. And you got to remember that as many times as you have to answer these questions, it's going to benefit somebody, and they have to start somewhere. And yes, they can use the search function and look through the page, but sometimes they may feel that their question is unique. And so maybe if you want to help that new person, maybe take conversation offline, because some of the veterans don't want to hear the same answers over and over again.
Melissa Dugan, any last thoughts? World's Toughest Mudder this year?
World's Toughest Mudder, it was awesome. It was good to see them make a difficult course again. It was really cool being in the starting chute when Nolan and them were saying, oh, by the way, we're really glad all of you hit your goal. A lot of you, not all, a lot of you hit your goals last year, but we're going to make you earn it this year. And I knew right then it was going to be a tough 24 hours, and it certainly was. So anybody that was out there, kudos to you, because that was tough. And if you hit your goal, even better. If you didn't, then you've got Atlanta to, redemption, and who knows. 50 miles in Atlanta might be the, new 60, might be the new 40. You never know how difficult a new venue is going to be. So, train hard as if it's going to be tougher.
Melissa Dugan, thanks much.
All right, thanks. Well, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, or a few weeks then.
I'll see you in LA.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, Ian. How are you?
Not too bad.
Ian, you are from Canada.
That is correct.
Were you at World's Toughest Mudder 2017?
Yes, I was.
How did you do this year?
I was not nearly as well as we had kind of expected, or hoped, rather. As far as things that went well, say the first 4 hours went really well.
When the obstacles were closed?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that rolling start kind of it changed everybody's game plan a little bit this year. But so I was one of 4 guys on one of the 2 all-Canadian relay teams. And so we had all kinds of lofty goals going into it. As far as that category goes, I totally see both sides of the argument as to, okay, the team relay is it's not a true 24-hour event. Like, I get that. But we'd all done Worlds before. We all did 2016, and we all did 50 miles or more. So we're like, hey, why don't we just do a different kind of challenge, right?
Sure.
Just to change it up a bit. And so we kind of went into it flying blind a little bit. We kind of just showed up and got on with it. Everybody had a different wheel fall off before the end of the race. The advantage of having the relay category is when you have a teammate with the wheels fall off, then you can double up your laps. He can sit for a little longer if he needs to recover, if it's a sprain or like he tricked his knee or bummed a shoulder or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the advantage to that guy is that his race isn't over, right? Like he's just got to, if he can come out and basically limp one more lap, we can still finish as a team, which is sort of what we had in mind going in, is that at all costs, while we were still willing, like if somebody absolutely got like medical DQ'd while they were in the pit, then we'd come back around, obviously, then disband and the three would go on individually, right? We had one guy had his stomach turn on him. One guy twisted his knee. The other guy strained his shoulder. And then as far as myself, by about sunrise lap, the cold had set in to me. But it was pretty much because throughout the night with the guys the idea at first was some of the guys would just sit for a little extra long and hopefully recover and get back out. So I always had in the back of my mind that, okay, someone's going to tag me out here at some point. So I wasn't taking in enough nutrition, wasn't taking enough time to stay on top of things in the pit, just assuming I was going to get a break at some point, which ended up being what broke me too. So that's a nutshell of how things went. So yeah.
Were you planning on running it like a true relay, like first and last lap together and then 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out kind of thing?
Yeah, that's what we had planned. And we basically went into it with a multi-level plan. Like we would do that and just sort of see how we placed. Like we weren't planning on placing exceedingly well. We're all just kind of like most of the population at Worlds, just sort of the average guys that train semi-regularly for the most part, and stuff. But we figured, we didn't know how deep the category would be, how stacked any of the other teams would be. So we kind of decided that by 8 to 10 hours into the race, we'd see where we were at. And if we weren't in, say, the top half of the teams, the plan was to do more laps sort of all together, so that everybody's individual mileage would grow, right? Sure. Instead of just the cumulative team mileage. And then basically every plan that we had going into it got thrown out the window. And two of us did most of the laps throughout the night. And it was myself and Sean Karen that did a lot of the night laps, and he had strained his shoulder a bit. And so what we did is he was okay for climbing over stuff. But the obstacles he had to hang off of, he was worried about wrecking it farther and possibly either ending the race or causing more permanent damage, right? Mm-hmm. Which, you kind of have to consider as well. So we were doing a lot of those really exceedingly long penalty loops all night long, and that slowly broke us down. I made a point of telling Eli after the race that he was a destroyer of souls. But we didn't sign up for World's Most Comfortable Mutter, so hey.
How many miles did your team end up getting, and how many did you get personally?
So we managed 60 miles cumulatively, and I got 45 personally. And we were on pace so that Sean and I would both get 50. Sean also got 45. But then it was sunrise lap that the cold really set into me, simply because I'm almost certain I was calorie deficient. Mm-hmm. The supplements I use are intentionally low calorie, so I don't have any of those turn my stomach, as it were. But I found it's not that I wasn't able to keep solid food down. I just had a hard time chewing it, and I couldn't eat much. So I was taking these supplements, a bit of protein, a bit of blends, electrolytes, things like that. But I wasn't getting a whole lot of solid food down. So my takeaway from that is I'm going to add a higher calorie supplement into the mix. The best advice I ever heard on the nutrition plans was that it should be like a good financial portfolio. It should be diversified. I forget who in the community said that, but it's basically, so if you have one thing tank, one thing that either for whatever reason on race day you don't like it or it turns your stomach, you've got something to fall back on. And so that's always what I've gone with. I have multiple ways of getting various different nutrition into me, except I wasn't conscious enough of taking in enough calories because, like I said, I was kind of expecting to have a break at some point and get all that taken care of, and that never came. Sunrise lap, I made the call with Sean, and Sean said to me, he says, I knew something was wrong when you quit talking to other people on the course. Because that's one thing I do a lot of I'm a talker by nature, but it also keeps you very mentally focused. If you just simple interactions with people around, find out, hey, how you doing? What are your mileage goals? What's your pace like? And just encourage each other. But I kind of at one point just put my head down and power walked and was just walking past people and not really muttering much. And Sean kind of knew I was in trouble at that point. I was still mentally I hadn't checked out. I was just I was just about falling asleep standing up from the lack of calories. And so I basically told Sean, I was like, look, I'm going to need to take a break one way or another. We can see if one of the other guys can go out with you if they've recovered yet. But there was basically 3 ways I saw it playing out if I had gone that one more lap so that we'd get 50 before we finished as a team, or I would get 50 as we finished as a team. And 2 out of 3 of the ways that turns out are bad. One of them was if I was to get medically DQ'd from getting too cold. The other would be is if our pace slowed too much to be able to complete the final lap as a team. And both those scenarios basically mean that our entire team mileage is out the window. And it's all for naught. And we had spent the whole night kind of holding it together so that we could still keep our team result. And so to go out for that one extra and have it all fall apart, I would have felt pretty terrible. And so the third option was, look, why don't we take just a little bit longer of a break? We knew Brandon, who had buggered his knee, was going to take a bit longer for a final lap. And so why don't we go out? We'll take just slightly longer break, work at getting some more calories into us, and then set off with plenty of time to finish the last lap. But I didn't want to finish too far before that 24-hour mark. They give you that big window this year.
Right.
I understand why they did that. There's a massive wave crosses at 24 hours if they don't do that. And so I get that, but I didn't want to finish at 8 in the morning. That doesn't feel right to me. So we came in, we were, I think 20 minutes shy of 24 hours. We came in pretty close and we were like, look, do we just want to sit at the finish so we can call it 24 hours or just go for it? We just went for it. And actually it was really cool. We hung out our final lap. We hung out a lot with, Lindsay Webster, who, a lot of people know at this point she had, gotten hurt partway through and dropped out of contention. But in her mind, she didn't finish last year. And that's all she wanted out of it this year if she was out of contention. And she was out there still with a smile on her face, just slugging away the miles, right? And her dad was following her around with the camera and everything, which was great. And so we got some time hanging out with her across the finish line with a couple fellow Canadians, herself and Deanna Braz as well, which was super cool. So altogether, it was still a good experience. We all learned a lot about our own races, but it took the wheels falling off for us to learn all those lessons, right? So,
what do you think the big lesson you're going to take with you into next year is from 2017?
To stay on top of my my nutrition, to make sure that I can maintain a pace to keep my body temperature up, because that's ultimately what shut me down personally. I don't know if they'll bring back the team relay category. I would understand if they didn't, and I would understand if they did. It's neither here nor there. If they do, I honestly don't know what category I'd want to go in next year. Because waiting to tag out, we went 2x2 for that first little bit. And looking up your buddies, timing chip and finding out, like, okay, when did they pass this mile marker, so we can try and calculate when they come around the corner and tag out. Every time we got tagged out and set out on another lap, the adrenaline was just as high as if we had just started the race. To me, anyways. I don't know if that was everybody's experience, but I was just as jacked up at the start of every lap as I was starting the race, simply because, like, we came in and we tag out, and then you sit in the pit, and it's like, well, as a team, we're still making mileage, but this feels really weird. So I made a point of not really sitting down, staying involved, interacting with people around, finding out if other people needed some help, things like that. But it was definitely amped up the excitement factor to see how your teammates are doing, and they come around and you set off. You're the whole thing is you're well rested. The idea of the relay is they can push the mileage that much higher. So that part was very exciting, and it was also kind of cool to go with 4 buddies that we all ran last year and stuff. So we've all done other events together because we're all from Alberta, although some of us are farther away from each other than others. But nonetheless, it was still really exciting. So yeah, I don't know what category I'd look at for next year, but either way, it's going to be fun. It always is.
But you enjoyed the team relay. It was overall a good experience.
Yeah, for what it was. And like I said, I completely understand arguments on both sides as how it's not a true 24-hour and things like that. But also, like, we all agreed, like, it's not necessarily it's going to be easier or harder. It's just simply different. Like, we all looked at it as just a different challenge, and it certainly was. It was a very different dynamic than just going at it and slugging out the miles all by yourself, for sure. So,
how did it play? You mentioned the start of every lap that you went out on, your adrenaline was jacked up again. How did that affect you? Like, were you kind of going up and down, like emotionally, or was it just kind of like constant, like high with the new fresh shots of adrenaline?
Yeah, it was for the first bit when that was all driving properly. It was definitely almost like a maintained high because you could keep a higher pace, your intensity is higher, and there's the excitement of seeing how well your teammates are doing and all that. So yeah, for that first bit, but I mean, arguably even running it solo, the first 6 hours of the race are still very exciting, nonetheless. But I find it added to it. But then definitely once we knew we were kind of in for the long haul, and not tapping out anymore, then it was more the, what you could call typical, the slugging the miles through the night and that. But, I don't know how it would have played out if we had kept doing that through the night. I know, we probably would have geared down, while the other pairing was out. Cause, if you stay wet and don't move, you get cold. The key was going to be to keep warm and not get bored. Because as soon as you're not focused on something and you check out, then your race can be over in a pretty big hurry. So,
what do you think about Atlanta as a destination for 2018?
No idea. I've never been there. So I don't know what it's like. I can only go by what the metrics I can measure, which are historical weather reports, and other people's experience. Cause I believe it's the same venue as Toughest from last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I can go on that. But besides that, it kind of adds that there's a dimension of the race that I like is that fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, why a lot of people started to kind of want to move away from Vegas, because after 4 years, it's like, well, what else is there, right? And that sort of plays into it, is that fear of what did I sign up for? And I think a new venue is gonna add that back in to a certain extent. We'll see what they can create that will rival the Cliff as a monumental course marking or obstacle. I don't know what they've got in mind, but they always seem to have some good tricks up their sleeves. So,
you and I actually ran together a little bit last year at Toughest Mudder Whistler.
That is correct. We did.
That was a great course. That was one of That was probably the funnest event I did all year. Last year was Whistler.
Oh yeah, I love doing the Whistler event. I've done it for a few years, and so the fact that when they put the toughest there, it just it cemented the fact that I was going back for another year. That toughest series was pretty epic. I really liked that format, and what was interesting is we were in Whistler, and it was cold enough that it was snowing. And we ran through the night, but I didn't get nearly as cold as they did in Vegas and geared exactly the same, basically. But I think what your body does is it adapts better when you're starting in the cold. Whereas when you're starting in the heat and everybody's basically dunking water on their heads before the start line to try and stay cold so they don't overheat on that first lap or in that first hour before they can get into the water. Versus dropping it down so much at night. I think it's that fluctuation that really comes back and bites you. So it was interesting. Yeah, the first couple laps in Whistler, I even had my wetsuit down around my waist. I was getting so hot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was pretty awesome. And I think we finished around the same time. We pulled you through Blockness. I was with my buddy Ken.
Yeah. We were
wrapping up that event. So. You
were probably a lap ahead of me. It was definitely both of our last laps. Sorry, did we cross together?
No, I think because we got into Blockness, we had passed you on the course and chatted for a bit and kept hoofing it, and then right when we got into Blockness, we saw you cresting the hill. So that was us yelling at you to get moving.
Yeah.
We got through Blockness and. I think, were you...
I think Lindsay Webster...
Were you hurt at all? Were you...
No, I was just tired. I think Lindsay actually came through Blockness with us also.
Yes, that's true. She did. And burned down the hill and left us all in her dust. That's what she does. I think you kind of waved us on ahead. It's like we had 20 minutes or so left to finish it. So,
yeah.
And we were like a quarter mile from the finish at that point. And so Ken and I took off, and I know you came in not too far behind us because it was something. I remember something happened with Kong, so they had that one shut down. So Blockness was basically the last obstacle, about a quarter mile from the finish. But yeah, that terrain goes up and down so much, but quarter mile seemed like quite a ways. So.
They've announced the 8 toughest venues for 2018, and I'm really disappointed that Whistler's not there. That was a great.
I know,
great
so
course.
am I, because that means actually I've been looking at it, and it's really looking like I'm not going to be able to make it to any of the toughest events this year. So there was a possibility of me making it to the Northeast one. That one's at that one in Massachusetts. But I don't think the timeline's going to work. I was going to be back east around that time, but I don't know if I can be there that long. Is the problem with time off work and all that. So
that's a shame.
So we'll see what this year has in store as it start to fall into place. But I got a lot of stuff going on, and I think I got to reprioritize a couple things in life, and then get and see what happens with Worlds. Like, I'm still planning on going, absolutely. I just don't know what sort of level I'm going to be at going into it this year. So
awesome. Well, Ian, any last thoughts on World's Toughest Mudder 2017?
Overall, I loved it. I loved how much harder it was. I really did, as much as it sucked. I think we all got given not a gimme, but we all got sort of like, well, it's like Eli and Nolan said before they started the race, there's a ton of people that made their goals in 2016, right? And it was still awesome to see. It was awesome that so many people shattered what they thought was possible. But Eli kept his promise that a whole lot of people aren't going to hit him this year, and he kept his word. No, I like that they amped it up in that sense, and I think I learned a lot coming out of it going into next year. So,
Ian Richardson, thanks much.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Will.
Hey, Will, it's Molly Kenneth. How are you?
Hey, Molly, how are you?
I'm really good.
Molly, you were the guest on our episode, How Not to Die, at World's Toughest Mudder.
Yes, I was. And I had a ball.
How was this was your first year at World's Toughest? As a participant, I mean.
Yes. I did medical in 2016, overnight neuro checks, and had a great time doing that. And then I decided, as my plane lifted off from that I was coming back and I was gonna run. And then the whole year from that day forward was in preparing for being a participant in World's Toughest Mudder.
How did it go?
It went extremely well. It was so fun. I came into the pit at one point and in the night, and my pit crew, my dear friend Ellie, who is an ultra runner, she crews for her husband, who's an ultra runner. She said, "How you doing?" And I said, "This is the most fun I've ever had. I can't believe they're letting me do this at night."
People get intimidated by 24 hours, and it is hard, but it's fun. It's legitimately a fun time.
Yeah, it really was. I remember in the morning, I did stay up. I did continue all 24 hours. I had Maria had the fastest lap time. I think I probably had the slowest lap time. 7.5 hours it took me. So I was doing at that point about a mile an hour. And I remember in the morning, a guy passing me, and he said, "How you doing?" Sort of a requisite, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing great." And he's like, "What? You're like the only person I have heard say something like that." I said, "Well, why wouldn't I be? I got my body to do what I didn't think it could do. I've been using it for, it's like I think we were almost done. It was like hour 23:59 at that point. But I've been functional. Even as somebody who's overweight and injured, I've been doing this. And I'm in a ton of pain, but what's there not to be happy about?" A lot of it was mental. I mean, a lot of it was like, I find that my brain needs to do something. It's a job dog. I'm a job dog. And so if I don't give my brain something to do, it will find something to do. And so I did a lot of meditating, actually. Get myself distracted from the pain I was in.
How do you meditate when you're out on the course?
People do it, I think, a lot of different ways. I did a lot of counting, a lot of visualization with colors. I did a lot of instead of so if one area of your body hurts, I focus on the 964 parts of my body that don't hurt. I learned that in a triathlon when I had an injury, and I just was like, "Hey, my right hip doesn't hurt, my shins don't hurt, my knees don't hurt, my ankle doesn't hurt." So just really, really mental distraction.
What were you were talking about how fun it was. Why was it so fun for you? What were you enjoying?
Well, I love the course. I love any Tough Mudder course. I love the people. In addition to being a nurse practitioner, I have a background in recreation administration. So putting on events like that, or assessing liability risk. I was a professional whitewater rafting guide, including through the Grand Canyon. So I know the sort of edge of where, like, why is there an age limit at Tough Mudder? An age limit that, I have to wait till my son can do one because of lawyers, because of liability. So the fact that we could do this thing at night that was touted as, it has inherent dangers. And, we've talked about some of those dangers. It has tons of risks, but they were quote unquote letting me, as a female in our society, and being as slow as I am, I had a really hard time. I was not able to find any individual to train overnight with me. I tried a lot of different things. I was able to attend one of the, they show up on the Facebook groups, or the Facebook page. If you haven't done them before, you always just watch the message boards for somebody putting together a night ops in your area. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do one of those, which was extremely helpful because there was a pack of people, and then there was Molly. And it was totally fine. I was a backpacking guide. I love the outdoors, and it didn't I know, like, I was concerned about being alone in the dark, but I just loved it. Just put me outside. If we're having troubles, if I'm having troubles, if my mood's gone sideways, put me outside, rain, slow, sleet, dead of night, whatever, and it's gonna make me happy. Put me outside and have me exercise, and that's one of the main things Tough Mudder really did to me, is putting those two things together. And then you let me do it all night, and it was like, it was brilliant.
What would you say to somebody who's thinking about World's Toughest, but they're not going to do 100 miles or 50 miles, and they're not even sure if they're going to be able to hit 25 miles, but they want to just go out there and see it?
Yeah, I love that question, and I love it because I joke. Well, first of all, I feel like I can really speak to it because I joke that we're all on a continuum, right? What is the bell-shaped curve? You've got Ryan Atkins at one end, and you've got Molly Kenneth at the other end. And then most everybody falls in between. But somebody has to hold that other end. And I joke that that's my job. And so I think, okay, I'm cool with that. I feel like I can speak to the people that don't, like, honestly, to the people who are overweight, who don't feel like they belong, who don't feel like they fit in, or who are afraid of how they're going to be treated when they come out there, either on the world course or on the Tough Mudder course. And I can tell you that what I have found out there again and again is that people are incredibly cool. Nobody makes an issue about your weight but you. And you just have to make sure there's enough people to help you. If you're big, people want to help you, but you have to. I always found myself like, oh, there's only one of you, there's only two of you. Hey, let's get that other guy over here. Hey, dude, can you give me a hand? Never had anybody had any issue with it. Most of the time, I don't even have to ask. I've tried to wiggle on regular courses. I've tried to wiggle away from obstacles and had people be like, no, we got you. It's like this line that somebody projected out to these folks, but they always say the same thing. We got you. I got you. And to somebody who's overweight, who thinks, oh, man, I'm going to hurt somebody. I shouldn't be doing this. I don't belong. Look at all these skinny people. How are they doing? What the hell do they know? Because we've really become our own worst judgers because we're so used to being judged. We're like, you can just trust me. We've taken the job on ourselves quite well. You don't need to do it for us. Probably doing a better job than anyone can do for us. So it's in your head. Like, it's not real. Those judgments. So I went out, I lost about 90 pounds. It took 12 years. My highest weight was 327. I was still active at 327, but that was in 2005. My doctor was going to put me on metformin, which because of my inevitable diabetes. And I looked at him and I was like, just give me 12 weeks. Give me 12 weeks. I'll do diet and exercise. I will, give me the lab slip right now. I'll do diet and exercise. I will come back in 12 weeks and we will talk again. Okay. So lost some weight, did a little better. Just give me another 12 weeks. Just give me another 12 weeks, doc. He gave me another 12 weeks. And we played this game for a while. We played this 12-week game. I, like everybody, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight, lost weight, lost weight, gained weight. Weight's really important to me in the sense that it ties me to gravity, and gravity ties me to the earth, and that means musculoskeletal injuries. That means a lot more wear and tear. Wear and tear on the body. Everyone who's been either a little heavier or a little lighter or had a repetitive stress injury knows what a wear and tear injury is. So that's why weight's important to me. It's important to me to get off. Before Worlds, a month before to be exact, my father died. And people always say, they kind of like their diet went off the rails because of a death. And I always thought, well, it's because it's been eating too much, like not judgmentally, but like, okay, that's reasonable. Well, I gained 12 pounds in 7 days. I worked out every day. and I ate Weight Watchers within the Weight Watchers parameters. I was so pissed. So in a very stressful environment, so my dad died in a week. He went into the hospital October 5th. He was gone on October 12th. I was there the whole time. It was super peaceful. It was a promo for hospice out there. It's a great service. Cortisol stress can make you gain weight like crazy. So I went into Worlds not only heavier than my goal had been, because we're all trying. There's this great group, the World's Toughest Clydesdales. So if you're a female over the weight of 150, 160, or a male over the age of 200, weight of 200, it's sort of sarcastic. It's sort of funny, but it's also a place that people can say, hey, you know, that obstacle is not really built for a Clydesdale, or a Clydesdale broke that obstacle, or I got 75 miles. How to get to a silver bib and be a Clydesdale. Really cool stuff. So I went in. So we always talk. So I had goals. I had weight and strength goals to go to Worlds. Mind you, I trained for a year, and I was making really good progress. I injured my back. I told you my dad died. Told you a couple of things happened. I went in so heavy. So heavy for me even. And that was very difficult on my body and mentally. But I would say to somebody else, you're going to want to set a scale goal. Don't do it. Set behavior goals. I'm going to work out X number of times. I'm going to track my food intake. I'm going to do my physical therapy. I'm going to do whatever works for you. You set those things, and the scale number will follow. And you do belong out there. I don't care if you're big as a house. The response I have gotten from people, even at my heaviest, even when I joke around online, right now Ryan Cray is telling me he's gonna push my big butt up happy ending. Happy ending is like the stupidest looking obstacle I've ever seen. And absolutely, like, for somebody like me standing on your shoulders or climbing on your head, all I'm thinking about is, I don't want to hurt you. That's it. That's my whole point. And I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing it. I haven't done pyramid scheme for the same reason. I'll walk around it in a normal course. But people are climbing in this thread and saying, we got you, you're going up. People I don't know. And that's the kind of community we're in.
That's great, Molly. That's good advice. That's good. I'm not a small person either. And, sometimes I come up to Everest. It just happened in Chicago. I wanted to get 25 miles, but yeah, I was usually, if I go up to Everest, and unless there's two guys at the top, I'm not going to subject some 120-pound girl to, pulling me up. But you couldn't do that in Chicago because the penalty was so long. And Ryan Cray was there all night long pulling people up, and I would not have gotten my 25 miles if it wasn't for Ryan Cray.
And that's what he posted. That's what he chose to do. He wanted to do that. That's where he felt good right then. And that's the kind of people. I just messaged him this morning, and I was like, yeah, I don't know where you people come from, but I'm very grateful. And he's like, yeah, you didn't tell me which toughest you're going to be at. So you put up there. I'm like, okay. But it's strangers that do this stuff that is so crazy. My very first, I don't know how much, I think it's valuable stuff. I figure you'll edit me out if you don't want to hear it all. So I'm just going to keep talking if that's okay. Okay. Yeah, no worries. So my very first Tough Mudder, Lake Elsinore 2016, I met you, I'd say within 15 minutes of the start. I was so nervous. So I didn't know anything about the WTMers going in the first wave or blah, blah, blah. I was so nervous. I had worked medical that Saturday that I couldn't, and so Sunday I did it. I was so nervous that I was out walking around, and then I happened to land in the start chute right at the first wave. So I was like, oh, that worked well. There were a couple of little walls to get over before you started. Yeah, I skipped those. I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do here. I jogged some of it, I walked some of it, and I just gave myself, it was my first one, I just let myself check it out. I got to Mud Mile and at Lake Elsinore and any of them, I guess. I described it as these. What do you think builds the front loader?
Just like a backhoe or something. Yeah,
a backhoe. It's a backhoe dug out trenches, usually like 5 of them. And I stood at the edge of this and looked at it for a long time, and I was in my mind trying to figure out if they were going to let the fat lady get stuck in there or not. And I watched sort of like teams of people, sort of people I had been sort of chatting with maybe on the course, but I'd kind of watched them go through. I don't know how long I stood there. And finally, I just lowered myself in. And so I was like, I walked over to the first one, and I'm like, oh, so I can't get out of here alone. And I was alone. I was alone in the first pit of Mud Mile, first ever Tough Mudder. And I was like, yeah, I'm stuck. And I turned around, and there was a guy in a red t-shirt, reddish pink t-shirt, and 2 of his friends. And he said, "We got you." And I was like, no. He's like, "We got you." And those guys were with me through all of those. I'd step on one of their knees, the other one would climb up ahead. We'd help other people. And it was, I didn't wear knee pads then. And the other thing is wear knee pads, people, and elbow pads. I didn't know. So I tore up my elbows and knees because I was hauling people up and climbing around and then climbing up people. And I just stayed with them. Like I was desperate. I was like, oh my God, they leave, I'm going to die here. Well, I got to the very last one. And because of the way things work in there where everybody's helping everybody, I ended up in the pit by myself. The guy who had first spoken to me didn't say anything. He just looked at me and he slid down back into the pit. And he just knelt down and I just tackled him with a hug. It was so meaningful because being overweight in a situation like that, you're in your head and you're thinking you don't belong and you're thinking everybody's looking at you. It's like when you go to the pool and you're like, everybody's looking at my fat. I'm the fattest person here. They're probably not thinking that, but we're thinking you're thinking that. So he just didn't say a word, just climbed back in, tackled him with a hug. And I was like, the healing that did for me. So the other person that I met in the fray in that Mud Mile, this is going to crack you up. So I met you, and then I met Kenny Ng, and I met Brooke. So Kenny Ng came scrambling around like a little scrambler that he is. And he said, "No, come on, I got you." I was like, no. He tells me what I said. No, I don't want to hurt you. He's like, come on, we got you. And it's that kind of thing too, where people are like, no, it's okay. You're not going to hurt me. I got this. That gets played out, and it's happened enough times now that I could say to an overweight person that's never done this, I would say confidently that something similar is going to be your experience. When I was in, I did at Toughest LA in 2017, last March. We saw you the second time, and you remembered my name, and so did Kenny. It was very weird. I came to Berlin. I was there by myself. Didn't know anybody. We came to Berlin Walls, and I was helping people over, and I turned around to leave, and this guy went to help me, and he's like, no, I got you. I said, no, you don't understand. Like, dude, I weighed in, like, I'm 230, dude. No. And he said, I got you. And he's like, 6 foot 200 and 218 pounds of muscle. So I was like, well, I'd probably let him help me. That's okay. So he called to his friends who were on the other side of the wall. Hey, give me a hand with her. Turns out I didn't need the guys at the top because he just he chucked me over the wall. Dangled down the backside, landed. He pops over. I climb back up. I say, hey, you need a hand? He's like, no, I got this. I was like, okay. And boy, was I disappointed when there was a second wall. But it's people that I've never met that aren't intimidated. And that's why I value this community and this experience on so many levels. A biggie being, it forces me to accept help. And I'm a medical provider, and I like to help other people. So to force me like a bug under glass to like a sandwich between two glass, and you're just going to keep squishing on that bug until it begs for mercy, like force me to ask for help. And then accept it. That's 10 years of therapy saved right there. That's huge financial gain right there, is because it's being played out for me every time. And it's not because my friends are there. It helps that my friends are there. I love doing courses with my friends, but I didn't have friends when I started. I went by myself.
Molly, what are your plans for 2018? Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder?
Toughest LA, definitely. Just going to be, so part of my weight gain in the fall was I was running in the summer. I did a 30K. I was running really well. I was doing CrossFit. I was doing multiple workouts a day. I was sometimes doing 3 workouts in a day, including CrossFit and running. I was doing awesome. I had a normal, small setback with my back. I kind of have a funky back, and I did not baby it like I usually do. Usually when my back acts up, I revert to swimming and yoga for a week or 10 days. It goes away and everything's fine. I told myself, I'm training for Worlds. I can't take, this is July, okay? I told myself I couldn't take a week off. I was wrong. What I did was, so spine is it's a tight little space in there, and you don't want inflammation in there, and you don't want injury. And so I went from a quote unquote bad back that was functional to a bad back that was not functional. Really quickly. I broke my back. I broke it. I had x-rays, MRI. I tried to sell my World's registration. Thankfully, support messed that up. And then a few weeks later, when I was like, I don't really want to sell my World's registration, I was able to get it back. So basically since July, and certainly since Worlds, it's been about health and wellness and function. It's always about function for me. If I weighed, 96 ounces, I wouldn't care if it helped my function. So today I had I got referral to pain management, and that, because referrals always take forever. I do physical therapy. Today I had a spinal epidural. So I got steroids put into my back. Steroids are a fantastic anti-inflammatory. And I just cut weight and work out and listen, because I know now I can do 20 official miles in 24 hours and 33 minutes and be proud of that. And that was at a heavy, heavy weight, and that was seriously injured. So the other thing I think people need to know about the competitive series is that I think you were the first person to tell me about this thing called a must-complete obstacle. Well, that sounds a lot like must-die obstacle. The biggest thing as an overweight person is I was afraid of disqualifying. I know a lot of people are afraid of medically disqualifying. I'm not afraid of that. I'm afraid of not being able to do something I have to do.
Sure.
The nice thing I've noticed, and I saw firsthand, is that while the course, and it's my first one, but from listening to you guys, the course in 2017 was tougher. The World's course, they didn't make it, there were no easy, they didn't make it easier at midnight or 1 a.m. or something. There was nothing, there was always an out. I can say I took every single penalty, every single one, except the one at Pandora's Box, because the electricity doesn't bother me. So don't be afraid that you don't have a good strength to weight ratio. Don't be afraid that you can't run for 24 hours. if you can move, now I hiked it. I hiked with hiking poles. If you can move and train to move for that long, you can totally do this. You can text me and I'll tell you how you're going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to do this because you have to now represent the other end of the bell-shaped curve. Because if I get faster and better, then I've left that spot open. Somebody else has to come fill it. Well, I've moved 1 or 2 notches down towards trust me, I'm still very much on the low end. But anyway, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I agree with you in principle that, like, Ryan Atkins is on one end, and then there's other people way on the other end. But I don't think it's a lot more people don't get 50 miles than do get 50 miles.
No, I know. And you know what else I kind of joke with myself? Somebody always gets hurt on the first lap or the second lap. Hell, I got more miles than them. I mean, it's more of a joke to me. I don't take it seriously.
No, You're right. There's 330 million people in the country, and only 1,500 of them run World's Toughest. So,
well, and my friend Anthony Davis, who lives up by me, and he did his second Worlds this year. He calculated out the kind of what you did, and you probably know this statistic. You probably got it from you. What percentage of the world's population actually does World's Toughest Mudder? So if you do that into a percentage, does it come out to like 0.015% or something?
Oh yeah, out of 7 billion people? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Something so small, and that really helped me because it's like the way I thought about all the things that didn't hurt on my body. I thought about what a privilege it is to be able to be with this group of people in this crazy event, which got to have a high liability risk insurance fee, and is so fun that most of the world, this kind of thing it's not even on their radar, not because they're louses and slow, but because we're a bunch of crazy people. We call it in my house, we call that a first world problem. Kind of things that we make up for ourselves. Like, I'm not fast enough. My butt looks big in this wetsuit. Like, who cares?
Everyone's butt looks big in a wetsuit.
Totally.
Well, cool. Well, Molly, any last thoughts on World's Toughest?
Thank you to the people. There was so overnight it gets to be pretty desolate. There were a couple of obstacles. I came to block Ness and pyramid scheme, and because of the low population density, some people had to really help me a lot on those obstacles. And like, no complaints, no griping, no nothing. And I was very aware of my weight and the just sheer gravitational force of it. And people are just amazing. People are amazing. It's such a good experience. I would buy your registration now. The cost is only going to go up. And it'll also, it'll make it real. And I'm serious. You can message me and be like, I don't think I can do this. I think I'm too heavy or too slow or too injured. And I'll be like, nope, here's what we're going to do.
People can find you on Facebook, Molly Kenneth.
Oh, God, no. That would be too easy. I only use if I'm on Facebook, your picture better have mud on it. I'm only there to I think what they should do first is join the World's Toughest Mudder group. I don't know. Maybe you know how to do that. I don't actually remember.
Sure.
Usually you find a friend.
World's Toughest Mudder, and it's the largest community group there.
And then when you're on there, look for Molly Kenneth, because that's the only thing I respond to. That's the only thing that exists to me. I shut everything else out. Your podcast, a couple other podcasts, that Facebook page, a couple of related pages, and other than that, I don't exist. I prefer it that way.
You know what? Maybe they should look for you through the Clydesdale group.
Oh, that would be great too.
Yeah, the world's toughest.
I will totally.
Yeah. So people want to find you. They can join the world's toughest Clydesdale group, and then
If
you're a
they're
member
heavy,
there.
if they're not heavy, we don't. We eat scrawny people. We put them on the barbecue with sauce, good sauce.
Fair enough.
Like dipping sauce. Yeah, it'll all go to my Facebook Messenger, and I will respond to anybody that comes through that route because I give so much to my patients and so much to what I do. I'm pretty, careful personally. So if you come through the Toughest Mudder or the Tough Mudder door, I automatically like and trust you. And I think a lot of people feel like that. I feel like I could message, like I just said, I just messaged Ryan Cray, I just messaged Mike Stephan, I just message people, and I just say, like, hey, I like your picture. Hey, how'd you do it? Such and such. And people will talk to you because we all need a place to let our guard down and be understood and supported because we're all a little wacky.
Molly, Kenneth, thanks much.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you later, okay?
Talk to you later, Molly.
Appreciate your time.
Oh, man,
Bye.
anytime.
Special thanks to Melissa Sharkbait Dugan, Ian Richardson, and Molly Kenneth for appearing in this episode. Well done, folks. If you would like to call in to our next listener call-in episode, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Directions are in the show notes. Your homework is to email me your best 5 stars to worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com. You can record it on the Voice Memos app and email it straight from there. Part 2 of your homework is to leave a review for the podcast on iTunes. You can do it through the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone. There is still one more episode of Kickoff Week to come. Go spend time with someone you love.